Hello, everyone, and welcome to March 3rd, the Wednesday of the second week of Lent. There are two sentences that stand out for me today. One is from the Gospel from today's liturgy, and the other is from the life of the saint whose feast day we remember today. So the line from the Gospel is this: "It shall not be so among you. It shall not be so among you." This comes from today's Gospel, from the Gospel of Matthew, and it's part of this passage. And this is just part of the passage from today's Gospel. But it says this: "Jesus summoned them and said, 'You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many.'" This is one of the gospel passages where we hear Jesus sharing with his disciples about who he really is and what his life and mission are all about, and he doesn't pull any punches. He had just finished explaining to his disciples that his life is going to lead him to the cross, that he will be scourged and mocked and finally crucified. And he asks them if they are able to drink the cup that he himself will drink. That is, to give his life as a ransom for the many, to serve and not to be served. And he tries to help them understand that following him means that they will need to choose a path that will not always be easy, that will require much from them, and will ask them to live in a way that at times does not resemble how others are living. It shall not be so among you. When others try to look out only for themselves and do not care about the needs of others, we hear him saying, "It shall not be so among you." We who are followers of Jesus all these centuries later, we hear the same challenge. And in a world where the dignity of others is trampled upon so often, how are we living in a way that is different? How are our lives giving witness to a life of service, of selfless giving? The second line that struck me is from the life of the saint we celebrate today. And that line is, "Why not do it yourself? Why not do it yourself?" This line comes from an encounter that St. Katherine Drexel had with Pope Leo XIII in 1887. Today is St. Catherine's feast day. And in 1887, St. Catherine was 29 years old. And by this time in her life, her birth mother had died, dying only a month actually after Catherine was born. Her stepmother had died, and Catherine helped care for her after a 3-year battle with cancer. And also her father had died, leaving her and her sisters with an inheritance worth millions of dollars. She and her family had traveled the U.S. and witnessed firsthand the suffering that Native Americans and African Americans endured. And having experienced all of this and losing these loved ones, she realized that all the money in the world would not shield her from the pain of sickness and the pain of death. And at 29 years old, felt a stirring in her heart to use this inheritance to help those who had been pushed to the margins of society. So she meets with Pope Leo and asks his recommendation. She wanted to know what religious order he could recommend that could come and serve the needs of some organizations that she wanted to fund with her own money. And his response to her was, why not do it yourself? Why not become the very person you are asking about? The very one who we will render that service to others. And she did just that. She became a sister and founded the Order of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament that had the specific outreach to Native Americans and African Americans. And she and her sisters created many schools and institutions and helped countless numbers of people who others had simply ignored. St. Catherine lived until she was 96 years old, and she died in 1955 and was canonized in the year 2000 by Pope John Paul II. We see in the life of St. Katherine Drexel the embodiment of what Jesus shared in the gospel today. You know, she could have used her inheritance for so many other things, and yet she chose to serve rather than be served. She heard that challenge from Pope Leo. Why not become that servant yourself? So as we move through these days of Lent, maybe we can take time to reflect on these two sentences. It shall not be so among you. Why not do it yourself? In what ways do you sense a call to serve others? In what ways do you sense a call to notice those who are usually ignored? In what ways do you sense a call to follow Jesus, even when it might be a great challenge? So I'd like to close with these words by St. Katherine Drexel. If we wish to serve God and love our neighbor well, we must manifest our joy in the service we render to God and to them. Let us open wide our hearts. It is joy that invites us. Press forward and fear nothing. Press forward and fear nothing. Know that I continue to hold you and your loved ones in my prayer. And may these days of Lent continue to be ones that deepen your own sense of call with Jesus. And until we see each other again, I wish you much peace and much hope.